Ronde de Nuit is the second full-length album from MEURTRIÈRES, a French heavy metal band from the Lyon area, as far as I remember, and one that includes members of somewhat well-known black metal and doom metal bands. But this is, again, in the style of traditional heavy metal, is very much an early 80s style heavy metal band, and one that I would have considered an epic heavy metal band on their self-titled debut EP back in 2020. So I think that EP made a pretty great first impression. It was around the time where I think epic heavy metal was sort of peaking in its popularity in some sense, and we were getting a lot of great examples of that style, even as sort of the pandemic kind of crumbled away some of the creativity that was going on at the time. So uh, what we got was a very unique vocalist, an interesting vibrato to her voice, and actually a pretty great EP. It was something I listened to quite a lot that year. It was on a lot of favorite lists, and there was nothing but hype going into what this full length would be. And I think what we'll do is we'll jump right into a song. For anyone who's already heard what the band sounded like before, this is something quite different. So at some point during the pandemic, they had to find a new vocalist, and I believe they sort of just they went with it. They're having fun with it, and they're pushing on through, and they are ready with a full length, and they busied themselves with finishing that full length with the new vocalist. And I'm gonna say I'm not gonna say she's not as good of a vocalist. It's that she's a very different vocalist, and what that means is there's quite a lot of very flat tonal pieces on here that just don't sync up with the music and just don't add any really feeling or emotion to the moment. And now I understand there are different styles of French singing, and that conveying tone is a very different thing in French. So uh, what we get here is something that is certainly indicative of 80s French heavy metal, and which a lot of it was very much influenced by both heavy rock of the time and Iron Maiden, as it were. So it certainly lines up with a lot of that feeling that we would have gotten in from like a retro release. But it doesn't quite line up with what that EP sounded like. And what I mean is that the diction of the singer is entirely different. The tone of the singer is quite different. And that might not be something you'll recognize unless you've heard a lot of singing in French and the types of enunciation that were used on the previous EP versus this album. So, some nitpicky things to say about the singing overall, but also the music itself has changed away a little bit more folk and a little bit more rocking. It is a little bit more of a heavy rock feeling record in terms of late 70s metal, uh, easing into their sort of Maiden-esque style previous. So there is still that sort of punkish, quite simple sense of songwriting here, but they've certainly packed a lot more into each song. So these are eventful pieces. There are some quite memorable pieces on here, but it all kind of clashes between the new vocalist and the different style, in the sense that this is not captivating in the same way. It is very much kind of rolling down the road. This is very much a a sort of a bar band feeling that's just sort of rocking out. And there are some quite dramatic pieces on here. I think the lyrics are actually even better than they were before in terms of theme, and now expanding that theme into different artistic venues and ideas about setting a scene with she's written. So there's a lot of improvement. There's a lot of very different things here. All of it doesn't add up to what I would have expected as a debut full length from this band based on their EP. So basically, my review is not that this is any better or worse than the first release. It's that it's just so different that I don't know how a lot of people will respond to just how different it is. So it's not a very. I don't think I ended up having a lot of really deep thoughts on this record. It's a good jam. It's a nice thing to sit with, and I don't know how memorable it ends up being, but it is something unexpected, and it's still a pretty good heavy metal record at the end of the day. So check it out if that's your kind of thing. It is out this Friday, and you can read more of my thoughts in the review to get something a little bit more honed in on what I think.